Well, a belated Mother's Day to all you moms out there. I don't know if any moms are actually watching this thing, but welcome back to 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse and Really Weird Cinema. And here's something you don't want to buy. This book, Snuff. What does this thing say now? The bloodiest thing that ever happened in front of a camera. Snuff. Conservative Politics, Porno Chick, and Snuff by Stephen Milligan. This is out over from Great Britain or something like that. And I actually thought that I might learn something from reading this. Well, I did learn something from reading this. That people that weren't born or didn't live in that era really shouldn't be fucking talking about it. Because this thing really didn't tell me a goddamn thing I didn't already know. And it wounds up that I may know more than this guy who wrote this book. It just amazes me that people that are born in the 70s claim they know all about the 70s, which they don't. And then they take me to task for stuff that I say. But nevertheless, Snuff was actually released in 1976, the year of our bicentennial. And if people don't know the backstory, you know, there was rumors that were started by none other than the Catholic Church that there were films floating around that showed a young girl having sex with a guy and then getting murdered at the end on camera. Okay, well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but the rumors persisted through the 70s, and I had told this story, and I'll tell it again, that there was this emporium, or as Al Goldstein used to call them, scumatoriums, that sat on the island between 7th Avenue and Broadway. And it was called Crossroad Books. It was a dirty, whitewashed building that basically had in the peeps every perversion known to man. And three of us were over there on a drunken Saturday night and had a handful of quarters and went into Crossroad Books. And they had these big white, poster board signs over the booth like girl with dog, girl with pig, oink oink, all kinds of other shit. But then they had one, Snuff, the bloodiest thing you'll ever see on 42nd Street. So, of course, we were drunk and up for a challenge, so three of us squeezed in the booth, and after 75 cents worth of quarters, when we saw a steak knife go where a steak knife never should go, we booked. In all the years of me dealing smut, I've never come across that loop again. People have doubted it exists, but someone I know had tracked it down and said it might be a European loop, and I said, is this real or is this Memorex? And he goes, nobody really knows. So that floats around. The thing is that because of the Catholic Church, and I think this guy's name was Charles Keating or something like that, head of the Legion of Decency or whatever, because don't forget, the Catholic Church used to send out notices about what the faithful should or should not watch. So this was a big fucking to-do when they built this whole thing up, and several people claim that they had these films and knew where these films were and called the FBI and called the New York cops, and none of it has ever turned up. They claim they had the evidence, but they never turned it over. And as far as the FBI is concerned, there is no evidence ever of a snuff film. What happened was, and this guy, had some quotes from certain people in there, a couple quotes from Dave Friedman, but Dave Friedman had told a lot of us off the record was that being that the Catholic Church had perpetrated this myth, they figured, why not make them? So they made a bunch of fake snuff films that they basically bounced between Crossroad Books and Blackjack Books, two of the most notorious scumatoriums in 42nd Street, or in that area, basically. So Dave was never a shrinking violet, never afraid to back off from controversy. And he actually had gone to the guy who bought the film off the Finleys. Roberta and Michael Finley had gone down to Argentina, shot this film, called it Slaughter, but never did nothing with it. It's sort of like a Manson-type film with devil worshippers and shit like that. Well, it had no soundtrack either. So this distributor, a bottom-of-the-barrel feeder named Shackleton, bought it for peanuts and, was going to do this, snuff thing. And Dave Friedman had a meeting with him and asked him not to do it because it would fuck up the business. Well, he didn't really give a shit, and what he did was he rented Carter Stevens' loft on 29th Street and shot this fake snuff footage with this actress, and basically they cut off her fingers and cut off her hand and disemboweled her and shit. Other people have said that Carter Stevens had shot the footage, but, Carter had told me he was at a Star Trek convention at the time. He just leased out his loft as a studio for them to do it. So the thing opened at the National Theater at $7.50 a pop in 1976. There was protesters, there was this, there was that. Eventually, Attorney General Robert Morgenthau had subpoenaed the actress that was killed in the last reel to show up to prove that, it was bullshit. And at one point, Shackleton said, with the money was started rolling in, that he said, at this point, I'd be a fool to admit it's a hoax. But this book has a bunch of fucking, it's more political than anything else. It's going with the major players. Like I said, this guy Keating, who must have been out of Cincinnati, Ohio, who was a real religious zealot and went after everything. Then they were basically describing, other snuff-type films, like how Last House on the Left and Texas Chainsaw Massacre led up to the snuff film. Bullshit. First off, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a straight-out horror film where you basically didn't see anything. It was all implied. Last House on the Left was going to be a hardcore roughie, but the exploitation guys figured they could make more money cutting it down and throwing it out on the exploitation circuit. Yeah, they had the chicks murdered on screen right in front of us, and it was all fake and bullshit. But it was really upsetting at that time, so I think it was like 72. And really bad word of mouth sold that film because everybody was talking about it. That's what you don't get today. There was a lot of ballyhoo around it, but it was by people who had seen it and told other people. So that worked out that way. Is Snuff a good film? Fuck no, it's horrible. But it's just one of those little footnotes in history that somebody made a shitload of money on it. And, another misinformation was this guy was talking about people who made loops in there and said that they were small businessmen who got together on weekends and may have coerced or drugged people into doing this shit on film. I'm like, dude, the mob ran this fucking thing, okay? Wake the fuck up. I mean, this is what I mean about people who don't live here or weren't born in that area or don't know that area making up this fucking bullshit that isn't true. The mob ran the porn industry in New York. Case closed, okay? People worked for them. Like I said, does this film hold up? Well, really not. And the weird thing was that Mr. Shackleton was having an affair with another exploitation guy, Stan Borden's wife, I think her name was Lorraine, and he wound up being found dead somewhere down the line. So, he not only was a bottom-dwelling scumbag, he was, stepping out with some guy's wife who had a lot more pull than he did, and it's a matter of speculation whether a hit was ordered on him or not. But either way, he wound up dead, I think, in Central Park, mysteriously. So, the legend, the Snuff legend lives on, and, they brought up the Mondo shit. They brought up the Emmanuel in America stuff. But, it's nothing nobody would really, not know if you're into exploitation films like I am. And like I say, I probably could have wrote a better book about this, but like I said, this was ballyhooed all over the place, and pretty much the film's a piece of shit. Even Michael Finley was nervous about them releasing it. A lot of guys in the industry felt that this film was really going to give porn a black eye. And it really didn't, because it just came and went, and, was used as a backup feature sometimes. Blue Underground, he put it out. But again, you're going to ask me, is it worth watching? Maybe as a curiosity piece if you can watch it for nothing or get the disc cheap. But it's really not well shot, not well done, and the final snuff reel is pathetically amateurish at best. I think they said they might have got Ed French to do the effects, but it's like really junk. So, weird, but do yourself a favor, don't waste any money on this book, because it definitely is not worth the read. Like I said, it goes into more legal stuff and political stuff than anything else. And like I said, the Catholic Church spread the rumor and the boys capitalized on it, and that's how it worked. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, the website's still there. www.42ndstreetpete.net if you want to buy a book, magazine, or anything, because it would definitely help now, because things are not good. Dogs are doing okay, finally, but I'm sitting around with the fucking car with no muffler because during the pandemic I got reamed by Midas and it's supposed to be a lifetime guarantee, but hey, guess what? We ain't got any mufflers. Wonder why. So, again, thanks for subscribing, thanks for tuning in. Above all, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.